that time again. Let's have a chat. So again, today we are with our good buddy Rob from Canada, the great town of Gatsby in Alberta, Canada. So Rob, today we are going to be talking about working the trades in Canada. Personally, I work as an automotive technician and I live out of British Columbia, Canada, which is a moderate place to live, probably one of the most moderate places to live in the winter time in Canada. But you're in Gatsby, but you don't work in Gatsby. Can you tell us a little bit about where it is you work and what you do?
Well, I work away from home, so I pretty much go wherever they tell me to, and usually you only get about 2 days notice. They'll call you up. They'll say, hey, we got this pipeline, and we want you to come do your thing. And I run a side boom, which is a open cab dozer with a crane on the side.
So when you're running the side boom, what is it that you're actually doing? And like, obviously you're not the only guy out there. There's a bunch of other tradespeople around you doing other things. When you say they tell me where to go, you're obviously talking about oil companies or whatever company that hires your firm or you yourself. But they get you out there to work your side boom. What is it that you're actually doing with a side boom? What is a side boom?
Well, a side boom, it's utilized for picking up pipe and moving heavy objects. That would be the crane side on my left-hand side, right?
Right.
And I have weights, massive weights on my right-hand side. So if I'm picking up very, very heavy pipe, like 12 inches or up, then I'll have to put out weights on my right-hand side to balance.
Okay, so you're constantly working with different size pipes and every day is not the same. You're not just laying the same stuff all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. A side boom is utilized for a lot of different things on the pipeline. It's when we're welding up the pipe, I pick it up, I bring it back to the welder, he welds it, I go grab another stick and I tag it back on, right? And then we have lowering in. And that's when we have a big long section of welded pipe, usually about half a kilometer to a kilometer, something like that. And about 4 or 5 of us will pick it up, depending on the size of pipe, and we'll slowly lower it in to a ditch that's pre-dug for us, and we'll slowly put it in with rollers off of the pipe. And then that goes in and pretty much it.
And that's a wrap. So, okay, so there's a lot of people that do this kind of job all over the world. But how is it in particular working in northern Alberta, putting this stuff down? If you guys don't know where that is, it's really far up north. In the wintertime, it gets really cold. And you yourself, you work in an open cab, right? Like you're out there in the elements. You're not in a nice air conditioned in the summer, heated in the winter kind of cab. You're out there standing there holding your controls all winter. So like how is it dealing with that? And you're out there like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, 12. Well, usually it goes anywhere between 10. Sometimes you can work an 18-hour shift, a 20-hour shift, depending on what's going on that day. Like you're in there, you're working by lights from the truck. Sometimes sometimes there's just a situation that calls for you to stay out there. So we stay out there, we get her done. And but you're right, it's very cold. As a boom hand, you have a certain type of PPE, personal protective equipment, and it's very, very warm, almost too warm. You wouldn't want to be on the ground working with this type of clothing on. So when you start doing this, yeah, it's really cold, but your body becomes accustomed to it. Usually takes about a week to kind of get used to it. That's a pretty cold week. And, but then after that, it's not too bad. We also do things like tarping on our boom. We'll turn the fans on the front of the engine so that it blows the heat back towards us. So that helps. As for the open cab, you can't really not have an open cab because you have to be able to see that you're not pulling your hook of your line on the side of the crane, like the boom. That's called a boom. That you don't pull that up into your boom, because the winch on the right-hand side that actually works the crane is strong enough to pull that crane back on top of you.
So it's a safety thing. It's not that your boss is just a mean guy.
Yeah, exactly. Or that they use equipment. It's you need to be able to see all the way around. You have nothing but blind spots all around you. Not to mention the fact that all the ground crew, like the welders and the laborers and everything like that, you need to be able to see where they are at all times so that no accidents happen.
So inversely, how is it working in the summer in the same region? I've been in northern places in Canada, and I got to tell you, the bugs are horrendous.
Oh yeah. If you're in the bush, it's the bugs. If you're sometimes we don't go to northern Alberta. Sometimes we go over to Saskatchewan. Now you're talking 40 above and 70 kilometer an hour winds.
40 above for those guys down south in the States that are watching this. What would that be roughly?
That would be in the oh geez, I wouldn't even know. The
100 plus anyway.
Oh yeah, over 100, yeah, for sure.
So
over 120, I would say.
Right. So 100 degrees and 100% chance of bugs.
Absolutely. Not so bad out in Saskatchewan where everything's flat, because with 50 to 70 kilometer hour winds, there's no bugs.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's a relief.
So if you get a breezy day, it's not so bad. But there's other things that kind of the wind kicks up the dust, and it almost sandblasts you. It's such a strong wind blowing up sand and everything. It gets in everything. You gotta it's sometimes it's not.
It gets sand. It gets everywhere. I'm sure there's some soldiers watching this right now, and they can attest to that.
You're absolutely right.
Now, the general opinion of how it works in northern Alberta and other places in Canada where they're doing the oil sands is they think everything happens willy-nilly, but there's actually it's really controlled, and there's a lot of safety involved, right?
Absolutely. I have to be ticketed up. Ticketed up means I have to take all these courses, and I have to redo those courses every 2 or 3 years. Even though I've done this for 25 years, I still have to go redo these courses. There's safety courses like H2S, first aid, ground disturbance. There's so many courses, especially for the environment and stuff like that. I can't even fuel up my machine unless I have a huge tray put underneath the spout, just in case a couple drops come out.
So not one drop is gonna hit the ground, kind of thing.
No, it can't. And if it does, then we have to actually move the equipment out of the way. We dig up all the soil that was there, and then it's trucked off to a contamination place.
Wow, that's got to be expensive.
Oh, absolutely. And not to mention that, but when it comes to the soil in the environment, we can't mix our dirts. So our topsoil is put in one pile, our dirt is put in another pile, and then when it's reclaimed, like put all back, then it's put back the exact same way that it was before.
Wow, that's a lot that goes into that. So you wouldn't want to be the guy that dropped any fuel on the work site.
Oh no, that's a big no.
You'd basically send everybody home that's supposed to be working on the site.
Well, the guy that dropped the fuel, yeah, he's probably going home.
Okay.
But like accidents happen and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that can be done for accidents. Right. So like the dirt away, and we also have absorbent cloths that soak up everything, and then they'll dig underneath that so that the dirt gets taken away. But
So
there's
basically, everything is set in place. So it's more about prevention than it is about recovery.
Absolutely. We also have a safety meet in the morning that we call a tailgate, and that's when your boss comes out and he explains to everybody what exactly is going to go on for that day. Then once we leave the tailgate and we go to the job site, if anything changes, if the scope of work changes, we have to have another meeting so that everybody's always on the same page of what's going on. Because a lot of times you have what we call green guys, and they don't have that 25-year experience, and you don't want them getting hurt, and you don't want them making mistakes. Safety first, production next, right?
So the greenhorns and the long time been doing it for years, like tradesmen, are all at the same tailgate in the morning.
Absolutely. And if somebody doesn't understand something, like someone that doesn't have the experience, they will explain it to you as many times as what it needs, so that you do understand, so that there isn't a mistake. And not to mention, anybody out there is willing to help anybody else with any problem. It's actually quite a tight brotherhood of workers.
So the old stereotype doesn't reign true. Everyone's actually pretty friendly with one another.
Oh yeah, like we have our differences, I guess, but they're worked through, and you know, like you said, safety first, progress next, right? So you got to keep that pipeline going, because, well, say for myself, when I'm up on my side boom, I have about, with equipment and laborers and welders and welding trucks, I have about like $6,000 an hour behind me, right?
Right.
If you think about it this way, if everybody's screwing up, that's where you'll see gas prices rise, because it costs so much money to get this pipeline in. Versus if we can get everything done in a smooth, genuine, progressive way, then it doesn't cost as much. And you got to think, for a one-day screw up, that's $1 million.
Well, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, just on a much smaller scale. Like if we have a mess up in the shop, well, it might cost our shop money, and then we have to spend a number of jobs just recovering what we've lost before we return into profits again, right?
Exactly, right?
It's just on such a much more bigger scale.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a 300-man crew on a big pipeline, well, things can get expensive through all sorts of, different things. Yeah, exactly. Like it's the numbers are astronomical of what it costs to actually do all this stuff, right? And it's not like the 50s where, like the pipe is at the top of the ditch and somebody kicks it in and a kilometer goes in, Like we can't even, the pipe is coated in what's called yellow jacket. If there's so much as a little nick taken out of that, and we have equipment that goes over top of before it goes in the ground, it's called a jeeper, right? And if there's so much as a little nick in there, it's got to be recoated and everything's got to be redone so that there's not going to be a rust spot in the pipe once it goes into the ground. We can't have rocks underneath it, because a rock with that much weight on top might make a little pinch into the yellow jacket or something like that. So we'll put sand down. And if it gets really bad, well, then we actually wrap the pipe in a certain type of wrap that will protect it.
Right. So basically, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not just fighting the elements that you have to worry about working in northern Alberta. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be working with the right group of people, and they'll ensure that you have the right group of people working with you. So, Robert, I'm going to end this on that note. And
absolutely.
We'll have you back, and we're going to have some more chats about some different things. This has definitely been my pleasure having you on here, and hopefully you guys at home have enjoyed this. So we'll see you in the next conversation. If you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button. If you're feeling generous, hit that like button. And if you want to be part of the conversation, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.